There we go. Hello, everyone. Welcome to Exploring by the Seat of Your Pants. My name is Melissa. I'm hosting from Toronto, Ontario, Canada. And joining me is Alex. He is going to introduce us to his amazing friends at the Penguin Hospital and show us a little bit about how they take in some endangered seabirds and how we release them back into the wild once they're feeling a little bit better. He's going to show us the facility. He's going to teach us a little bit about conservation. So without any further ado, this is Alex. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you, Melissa. So introductions, I'm Alex. I am the education assistant here at Sanccob. You might be wondering what Sanccob stands for. Stands for the Southern African Foundation for the Conservation of Coastal Birds. It is quite a mouthful, that's why we shortened it to Sanccob. I'm just going to give a little bit of history of what we do and why we do it. And then I'm going to take you on a tour around our facility just to show you exactly what's happening here with our patients and why we do it. And then after that, you guys will have an opportunity to ask any questions you might have. So if you see something very interesting, please keep that question for the end of the lesson. So our organization started back in 1968. We're one of the oldest non-profits in South Africa, which is where I'm currently hanging out with you guys. I wanted to say Skype, but it's a hangout. And basically, our organization started with one person. Her name was Althea Westphal. She started the organization because she noticed that there weren't any other companies or organizations that could actually handle birds that were oiled. So we specialized in oiled animals. So we washed them, we cleaned them, we took care of them, and then we eventually released them back into the wild. Now that is the main difference between us and a normal zoo and aquarium. We want to release as many of our patients back into the wild, obviously as healthy as possible. And we've been able to do this work only thanks to public support, not just here in South Africa or on the African continent, but all around the world. We get support from America and Europe and UK and Australia and Asia. And we run solely on donations and volunteers. And they do a lot of the work. Now I'm just going to take you a little bit around. I'm just going to swap over. So I'm just leaving my office. And we're currently inside the hospital. So this large room, it doesn't look very remarkable, but actually it's very important. This is our wash and rinse bay. This is used specifically for oil spill events. So the moment there's an oil spill, we will collect all of those animals. Depending on the location, we might go to different facilities. And if they are here in Cape Town specifically, they'll come here. We will use our hosing over here and special chemicals. And also we have to be very careful because when animals are oiled, they're under a lot of stress. And that's actually very bad, especially for birds because they don't handle stress very well. Just to show you a little bit more around. Unfortunately, I can't go into admissions right now. They're just currently busy with an operation. I can show you our other operating room. So this is our operating room. It's quite small, as you will notice. So as a non-profit organization, we don't get any money from the government. We run solely on donations. So this is our facility. It is 34 years old. We're actually in a very exciting time. We're currently constructing new pools and pens and building new hospital facilities. And we need all of that because we get a lot of these guys over here. I'm just going to go down because you can get a better view of them. So we get a lot of these guys. Now, as you guys can tell, these guys are penguins. It's not just penguins that we receive. We are a marine bird hospital. So it's things like seagulls and cormorants and pelicans and shearwaters and oyster catchers and parasitic jaegers and albatross on rare occasion. So we get a number of marine birds. On average, we get 2,500 patients, and that is only in a non-oil spill year. So if there's an oil spill during the year, we could have many more thousands. And of those 2,500, we have an 85% success rate in regards to our rehabilitation and release. So we save the vast majority of the patients that come to us. We're very, very proud of that. Now, the pen I am overlooking, that's actually our fanciest pen. This is called Home Pen. Now, it's reserved for two specific types of our birds. It is our long-term patients. Now, it takes, for most of our patients, about 2 to 3 months to get better. This obviously depends on what kind of condition they come to us in. And they can come to us in any number of reasons. So sometimes they come to us because of weakness. They haven't found any food, so they're very, very hungry. They don't have a lot of strength, or maybe they get caught in a current and they don't have enough strength to get back to their colony, or they could get certain diseases. So, for instance, botulism. So that means if a bird swallows something dirty like plastic or that sort of thing, the bacteria slowly releases toxins and actually slowly paralyzes the bird. So things like that. Blunt force trauma, so sometimes they get hit over by boats in the water, or they cars, because sometimes they make across the road and they get hit over because they have to cross the road every day. Sometimes they get entangled or they swallow fishing hooks, plastic, oiling. So there's a lot of reasons why we get them. So those guys are long-term patients. They'll stay with us for more than 3 months, but they'll stay here. And the other type of bird that we have in here are our permanent birds. Now, I know I mentioned that we want to release these guys, but we do have birds that are staying here forever. And the main reason for that is just because most of the permanent birds have some kind of injury. They're hurt in some way where they would not be able to survive in the wild. So some of them have deformed beaks, so their beaks are skewed and they can't close their mouth properly, so they wouldn't be able to catch their fish properly as well. Others have lost vision in an eye, or for instance, this individual over here, I'm not sure if you guys can see from this far, but he's actually missing a whole flipper, so he will not be able to swim at all. Oh, there, it's spinning around. So he just has the one flipper, as you guys can see. So the permanent birds are here because they're hurt in some way and they would not be able to survive. We will obviously not put them out in the wild. We will obviously keep them here to have a second chance at life. This is Shanae. She's a bird rehabber. She's just busy feeding some of our birds in their nests at the moment. And our birds get sardines specifically. Each one of these penguins will have about 6 to 10 fish a day. It's basically, we go through about 20 to 25 boxes of fish every day, which is about 40 to 50,000 Rand every week. It's one of our main expenses, actually, and that's all paid through by donations as well. But you'll also notice there are a number of other species here. Quite a number of them are in the far back, so I'm actually going to go to the rest of the pens to show you some of our other species. Just want to quickly show you our pools over here. We just have two penguins busy drifting. They should actually be swimming a little bit more, but the reason why they're just floating around is because the water is not disturbed, so the fountain is not on. These guys are just enjoying the water. Now, pools are very important to us because we have to ensure they have strong swimming muscles. We don't train them how to swim. Penguins know instinctively, so they know from birth, but we have to ensure that they can swim for long periods of time. We also have to check the waterproofing. Now, for penguins, if you can ever imagine yourself as a penguin, you have to go into the ocean every single day to go and catch your fish. You have to have a very good wetsuit in order to stay warm and not get cold. Now, for a penguin, if they're missing even 0.5 millimeter of waterproof feathers, they would often not make it out in the ocean. They'll get hypothermia, and they'll often not make it unless they come here to our facility. This is a normal pen. So a normal pen is not very fancy. It's just basically a flooring. The other reason why we have permanent birds is if they become too tame. So it's something we have to be very careful about while we're rehabilitating them. We don't want them to get too used to being around people. So 90% of the time that these guys are here, we are leaving them alone. That other 10% is all the feedings, the tubings, the medication administration, the operations. So that's what we're doing. But we are not allowed to hug or cuddle any of these animals. Um, and we have to be very careful because a lot of our species, including our African penguins, are endangered. So I'm sure everybody knows what endangered is, but if you guys don't, it just means that there are not a lot of their species left in the world. And to give you some idea of how endangered, our African penguins, so all of these penguins here, are African penguins. I know some of them look a little bit different because some of them are more bluish gray and some of them are black and white. That's just a difference in age. So our African penguins, there used to be about 2 million of them 80 years ago. Now they're down to about 46,000, which means 98% of them are gone in less than a generation. And there's a lot of reasons for that, but it's primarily due to human impacts. So, specifically for our African penguins, in the past, their eggs used to be a delicacy. Some years they would collect 700,000 penguin eggs to eat. And a breeding pair only lays 2 eggs a year. So they were wiping out entire generations of penguins. Other things like guano collection. So I'm not sure if everybody knows what guano is. It's the very fancy term for any bat or bird droppings. For us, very, very valuable. It used to be called white gold. It's specifically used for agriculture and also in the creation of gunpowder. So they used to collect guano. But for our penguins, that was their primary nesting construction material. So they used to burrow into the guano layer and construct underground burrows. This is just our aviary over here. So we have some flight birds in here. So we have some smaller heart-lip gulls and some larger kelp gulls over here. Cool. So the guano used to be collected, and because it's now gone, they're forced to make all their nests out in the open. So they can no longer construct underground burrows, which means that they're stuck outside in the harsh South African climate, and a lot more predators can go for them as well. These are some of our juvenile Cape cormorants. They've just come in specifically because they're fledged, so they've left their nest. Their parents are no longer taking care of them. But they have not yet developed the skills in order to survive. So we get a lot of them because they're weak, they can't find enough fish. Once they're in good condition, we will release them either on Robben Island, Dustin Island, or Intaka Island. So areas which are further away from human habitation, that just gives them a better chance at survival as well. A number of other causes for the decline in a lot of our species nowadays are things like climate change, pollution, overfishing. Now, these are things that our single organization can't do much about. It takes more of a global movement in order to make an actual difference in the lives of these animals and all the animals in the wild, actually. But that's why I'm very happy that I'm actually in contact with all of you guys around the world. It's amazing that we can get this message out there, and we can change mindsets, and we can create more of a positive world. Just have a bit of a treat for you guys. These are baby penguins over here. So the baby penguins, very, very cute. Um, Unfortunately, they're here because their parents can't take care of them. So these guys are here because they've been abandoned by their parents due to lack of fish in the water from overfishing and climate change. So we're getting more and more heat waves, and because they can't make underground burrows, the parents are forced to abandon their nests often. So it is quite scary. We get several hundred abandoned chicks every single year, and our organization is the first in the world to actually hatch, raise, and release penguins back into the wild. When they come to us, I'm just going to turn around so I can actually show you. When they come to us, they're basically, if you take your hands, take your hands, put your thumb just above your nose, your chin, just above your nose. They're about that big when they're born, which is very cool. But then they reach adult size, which is about these guys, in a month and a half. So that is incredibly quick. It's basically if you guys were born this morning, you would all be adults tomorrow. And that's just because at 3 months of age, they have to also fledge. So their parents are, okay, you're old enough, go out into the world, make it your own. So at 3 months, these guys have to be fully grown, and they have to start losing the soft, downy feathers, as you guys can see. Sorry guys. Some of them are already losing it, and they're getting their first waterproofing feathers, which we call blues. Now, if you're wondering, penguins do live for quite a long time. Natural lifespan of about 20 to 25 years. This is specifically African penguins. Of course, there's other species of penguin in the world, and they have varying age lifespans as well. If you guys didn't know, there are 18 different species in the world. Also, a very big misconception in the public that most penguins are found in cold, icy areas, and that is not the case. There are only 4 of the 18 different species that actually live in those kind of climates. The rest of them are in more warmer climates. So New Zealand, Australia, South America, obviously here in South Africa, and quite a number of the other islands in the southern hemisphere. So you don't get penguins in the North Pole. There should not be any penguins in the northern hemisphere. But obviously now that's the case if you go to any zoo or aquarium in the northern hemisphere. So we do some amazing work here, but we obviously need quite a bit of help to save these guys. So if you guys want to save them, which I'm sure everybody there does, I have not met anybody that doesn't like a penguin. I'd be very worried if they didn't like penguins. They're just way too adorable. So if you guys want to help save these guys, there's quite a lot you can do on your side. Some things that actually are common sense, but you don't link them to saving our penguins. It's things like saving water, saving electricity. That all is basically helping nature. It puts less pressure on our natural resources. And if you're helping on your side, you're helping the world. Things like the 3 R's, so reduce, reuse, recycle, incredibly important. I actually use 5 R's. I have rethink, reduce, reuse, recycle, and rot. Rot for all our biological waste like banana peels and that sort of thing as well. Reduce your plastic consumption. So stop using once-off plastics. That includes things like straws, plastic bags when you go shopping. Please use reusable bags. Yeah, be careful what you eat. Certain species that you get at our groceries are actually more vulnerable or more endangered than others. So there's sustainability in some species that certain fisheries are using. So there's quite a lot, and I think the main thing is to get the information out there, to talk to your teachers, to read books, to actually do some research on the internet, and to get more information on how you can help, because every single one of you guys are incredibly important. If you guys didn't know, you are all the future. You guys are the future pilots and painters and scientists and policemen and firemen, um, movie stars. One of you might become the president one day. You don't know. And the sky is the limit, really. But along the way, we can be a lot more sustainable. We can go a lot more green. And I think it comes down to 3 things, really. Firstly, your parents. Your parents are incredibly important. They've lived life. They have quite a lot of life experience. Um, they should be there to guide you into becoming productive and amazing people. Your teachers are next. They are giving you that knowledge, that information. They gave you this amazing opportunity to hang out all the way from here in South Africa. And then I think the most important, if not yourselves. So you each have your own passions and your own dreams. Please follow them. That is very, very important as well. Okay, so I think I am just about done. Um, we are now up for questions. So, Melissa, if you
Awesome.
can.
For sure. Thank you so much, Alex. That was really interesting. Learning so much about penguins. And I think in North America, we often picture penguins as living in the Arctic, in the cold climates, like you said. So this was really interesting. I know Miss Painter's class has to head out pretty soon. So I just wanted to give them the chance to ask their first question. You guys are off mute if you wanted to ask in person.
We're off mute, so ask. So with the water shortage in Cape Town, I want to know how that affects the penguins, like the facility.
Okay, that's actually a good question. Our water is also one of our main expenses here. Due to the water restrictions, we've actually had to reduce quite a considerable amount of water that we use, and we've actually moved most of our usage to our borehole water. So we do have a borehole on site. It is helping quite a bit. But otherwise, we still do have facilities that use fresh water from the municipality. And we're just trying to ride it through. But unfortunately, we have to use water. It is a marine bird rehab center. We cannot not use water. But yeah, that is a great question. Thank you for that.
Awesome. And we'll do one more question from Miss Painter's class, and then we'll cycle through the other classes.
Do penguins need a lot of space for like their pen area and their play area?
Sorry, I didn't quite hear the beginning of that. Do penguins need a lot of
space?
Oh, space. So at the moment, as I mentioned before, we're under construction. So if you guys notice that wooden walling, that is actually behind that's our new pools and pens being used. And this white building, I'm not sure if you can see, that is our new hospital. Now, in the past, when our facility was open and we were not under construction, this whole area, the one with the chicks, these are pen 3 for our healthiest birds. We have some juvenile Cape Gannets on that side. This entire area used to be outside ICU. So it was specifically used for our injured or weak birds, but they're in better condition than our inside ICU patients. So our facility, there's about 65% of it's gone. So we've had to actually construct smaller pools and pens. But in general, for the penguins, it depends on how many individuals we have. This space over here for these guys is plenty. But obviously it depends on the species. If we have quite large species like pelicans or albatross, they need quite large space. Otherwise, they're going to feel very uncomfortable as well. So yeah, that's a great question.
Awesome. Thank you, Ms. Painter's class. So they are from Salem, Virginia. And we have a few other classes joining us from Virginia today. So I'm going to go to Ms. Foster's class. You guys are off mute if you want to ask a question. They're also in Virginia, but you guys are in which city?
Standardsville.
Very cool. What's your question?
When you release them back into the wild, is it hard for them to adapt to their new environment after being in your care?
Okay, so the vast majority of our patients are coming from the wild, so they are still very much wild. We obviously do have a lot of very strict protocols and procedures in place. And then also, each of these individuals has to pass a final assessment. Now, at the end of their rehab, they go through 3 final tests. Their blood work has to come back absolutely clean. Their feather quality has to be 100%, and their weight has to be a certain weight. When we release them, we also return them to colonies specifically. So the colonies, we're very fortunate. We have 2 mainland colonies. The rest of African penguins are found on 24 other islands. Yes, thank you guys. That's very nice. So the colonies, the mainland colonies, we can do releases every single week, and that's what we do because we get so many patients. And for the guys that are coming in wild, it's perfectly fine. The chicks, however, are a little bit trickier. So the babies that we get, that we raise here, we fortunately, in the case that, if you guys didn't know, penguins are actually very, very aggressive, extraordinarily aggressive actually. They will usually attack anything that comes near them, including other penguins. And our African species is actually noted for being one of the most aggressive of species. Now, when we're taking care of these guys have to be fed every 3 hours. First feeding at 6 a.m. in the morning, last feeding at 9 p.m. at night. Individually, they have to be weighed before their 6 a.m. feed, and we have to spare 10% of their body weight in terms of food for the day. They each have to get their own medication. Their blood work has to be checked, so it's a lot of work, especially since last time we got about 979 of these guys. So imagine feeding those guys every 3 hours. But we're very fortunate because they don't imprint very easily on us. But we obviously do have other procedures in place. For any other species, we have to wear a full body suit. We have to use audio recordings of that species while we not great for our hands and our arms, but we're very fortunate in the fact that they are still wild. It has happened though on rare occasion that we will get a chick that is too tame, and usually in that case we transport them back here to our facility. But also when we are releasing these chicks, we release them with one of the adults. So the adults, since they've been out in the ocean before, they have that confidence. The chicks follow up on that confidence. They often follow the adults into the water, which is great. Thank you. I hope I answered your question. Do you guys have any other questions?
Great question. I can circle back if you want. Are you ready? You've got a question. Go ahead.
How do you... what happens when the adult penguin that the babies are going with, they don't get along?
Okay, so the chicks that we get specifically have been abandoned, so we won't take an adult. Oh wait, was this for the release specifically, or when we get chick?
For the release.
Okay, for the release. So for the release, we usually put them in boxes. I'm just trying to think where I can find a box. There we go. So we have these guys in boxes. These are our transport boxes. We use them for our pickups and our releases. We, depending on the number of individuals, we can put 2 in each box. That's perfectly fine. And then we'll have multiple boxes, and then we just usually line them up in a semicircle towards the water, and then we release them. So at that time, they're just trying to get out. They see the ocean. They're very happy to see the ocean, and they just move. And we haven't really had any issues. We have been releasing penguins since 1968. So as far as I know, there haven't been any major issues when it comes to releases, thankfully. There has been a bit of an issue lately, specifically with avian influenza, which has hit our country last year. So it's actually quite a high mortality disease, and it's actually made us have quite a number of biohazard protocols. So whenever we get a patient now, we have to send one of our bird rehabbers or one of our vets to have a look for any symptoms before we bring them into the center itself. Everybody has to actually step into these disinfectant foot baths when they're walking in and even when they're walking out. So there's a lot of protocols that we put in place just because of that. You'll also notice the shade netting. So this isn't specifically to prevent our flight birds from getting out. It's to prevent the mosquitoes from getting in. So we're actually, let me just show you guys. We're actually right next to a fillet, which I believe in your terms would be wetland. and it is a major breeding ground for mosquitoes, which all carry avian influenza, which is quite bad. So basically the view when you're leaving Sanccob. And if you guys look in the background,
Oh,
very iconic. A lot of people actually come to our country just to climb that mountain. Cool. Thank you,
very
guys.
cool. Thank you so much. I'm just going to circle around, and if we have time at the end, we'll get back to you guys for another question, okay? So our next class is Miss Moore's class. They had a question, and they are joining us from Winston-Salem in Virginia. So let me just see if I can take you guys off mute here. There you go.
Is it harder to get oil off of certain types of birds?
So in general, it's very difficult because birds are very prone to stress. If they become too stressed, they often get other medical conditions and they don't make it. Now, when we get an oil bird, we only have an hour to wash them in. It's usually 4 people for each bird, 2 people for wash, 2 people for rinse. We use a gentle detergent called Savlon, which actually breaks down the bonds of oil and it allows us to wash off the oil a lot easier. And we have to wash the whole body using toothbrushes. So it is quite a lengthy process. Now, if we don't do a proper clean in that 1 hour, so we use basically the coloring of the water that we rinsing them with as an indicator of whether it's a successful rinse or not. We have to wait 3 days for their cortisone levels and their stress levels to be reduced in order to clean them again. And once they're clean, they're still not in great condition to be released. Now, to give you some idea, a small oil spill will be 200, 300, 400 animals. That's a small oil spill. A large oil spill would be something like the Treasure. The Treasure oil spill was the largest animal rescue event in human history. Our organization took hold of that, and we got a lot of support from our local and international communities, other organizations, and just bystanders that actually wanted to help. The Treasure ship sunk between Robben Island and Dussin Island, which were both penguin colonies, and it actually oiled 19,000 oiled, and an additional 20,000 we had to relocate before they got oiled. So there was 40,000 individuals. You also must remember that each one of those 19,000 oil birds needs 4 people each in order to wash them. So it was a massive event. So that's basically something that we do.
Awesome. Great question, guys. So I'm going to switch to our next class. Miss Moore just asked if if the students could send toothbrushes to your facility, Alex. Is that something that you guys collect?
At the moment, we're thankfully not getting a lot of our oil spills. We do have a wish list on our website. So if you have any of those items, you're more than welcome to send them through. We also do take teddy bears. The teddy bears we use for our chicks. So basically it's comfort for the chick, but more importantly, it tricks the chick into thinking there's more competition for food, so they feed a lot more vigorously. Obviously, don't send like a giant teddy bear. That's not going to work. They just go into our our baby incubators. But yeah, it's very cute.
Okay.
Also,
Awesome.
if you guys want,
Go ahead.
if you guys want to, you're more than welcome to adopt one of our rehab patients. So for our adoptions, we obviously can't put a penguin in a box and send it to you guys. That penguin is definitely not going to make it that side. What we will do, however, is we will go into the pen, we'll take a picture. You guys can then send us a name of the penguin that you want. You get a brief history of where it came from, what happened to him, why he came to Sanccob, as well as a certificate stating you have saved this bird and a letter. And basically the money for that goes to buying more fish and medication. So it's a once-off payment because these guys are going to be released. And it's 600 Rand, which is basically the equivalency of $50, I think. But that's if you want.
Awesome.
Please, yeah.
Thanks, guys. Okay, so Miss Moore's class, I made a mistake. You guys are not in Virginia, you're in North Carolina, but we do have Ms. Chavari's class from Illinois. Are you guys ready to ask a question? I have you off mute.
What's the size of the South African penguin?
Sorry, I didn't quite hear that. Can you just repeat yourself?
What's the size of the South African penguin?
The size?
So the size, it's basically about 40 to 50 centimeters. So it's a ruler and a bit. They're classified as a small to medium-sized penguin. You do get smaller, which would be the little blues found in Australia, and you get quite large birds like our king penguins and emperor penguins. Emperors being the largest, they're about 1.3 meters. So for a lot of the kids on that side, it would be your size.
Okay, and did we mishear your question, guys? Was there a different question? I'm sorry, Miss Chavari's class. I feel like we misheard you.
Nice and loud, real loud. If the penguins go with a partner or like something like that, when they transfer to the wild, if they don't get along, could they eat each other?
Did you hear that, Alan?
I got that. Yeah, I got that.
Okay.
So penguins, they do partner up, but you must remember that they're coming here to the hospital in a weak or injured state. So they're not in the greatest condition to look for a girlfriend or a boyfriend. When we do release them, they'll obviously find somebody amazing. And on very rare occasions, sometimes a long-term patient here in our home pen will actually find somebody. However, this does not affect their release date. So, for instance, if we have two patients in ICU and they've met in ICU and they're going through rehab, but one's here specifically because they're underweight and the other's here because of a flipper injury, we will not wait until the flipper injury gets better to release them both. We will release them as soon as they are healthy. Now, the fact of the matter is that these guys are incredibly endangered. And if they weren't as endangered as they were, we would probably be a little bit more relaxed on when we can release these guys. But there are quite a number of concerns, including our space issue and the fact that it is quite a lot of money to rehab them and keep them here if that is the case. But they will find partners, it's no doubt. And they do make amazing partners. They spend their lives together. That's also a biological reason because it actually takes two birds to take care of a chick. The incubation period of an African penguin is about 40 days. If it was up to the dad or the mom to sit on that egg for that 40-day period, they would not survive. So they have to take turns. They both take turns building the nest, incubating the egg, hatching the chick, and defending the nest against predators and going hunting for the chick. So it has to always be two. It's very cool. Thank you.
Great question, guys. And then last but not least, we haven't heard from Miss Burkett's class. They are our last class that joined us from Virginia, in Sterling, Virginia, and they're in 3rd grade. So do you guys have a question?
Go ahead, Sarah. My name is Sarah, and I want to know which penguin dies first, the male or female?
Which one lives longer?
Okay. To be perfectly honest, I couldn't really answer that question. It has nothing to do with whether they're male or they're female. It's specifically what's killing them now is the pollution, the climate change. So they actually have a reduced lifespan nowadays. Before it used to be 20 to 25 years. Now they only live for about 10, if best 15 years. So they're missing quite a big chunk of their lifespan. In captivity, it's a lot different. They are taken care of. So the oldest African penguin was 44 years of age in a European zoo. So they can live quite a long time. But in the wild, if they're not reaching their full lifespan any longer. So I wouldn't be able to tell you whether it's a male or female that goes first.
Thank you.
Great question.
We have one more question.
for sure.
How far can a adult penguin go by one stroke of its flippers?
How far can it swim? How far can a penguin swim with a stroke of its flippers?
Okay, I have no idea. That's a very interesting.
Well, how long can they swim out at sea?
Oh, that depends on the condition and what's happening with them. So if they have chicks, they'll obviously swim for quite a long time. They'll also go quite further away. They'll usually go about 10 to 15 kilometers off our coastline, but that also depends on where the fish is being found. Our African penguins can reach speeds of about 24 kilometers an hour. So you guys have some homework. Your teachers are very happy with me. If you guys can convert kilometers an hour into miles, then you can do that. Also, penguins, they can dive to incredible lengths, incredible depths. Now, a lot of people like penguins. They're cute, and who can blame them? They are very cute. But not a lot of people understand the ecological niche, the reason why penguins are important to the environment. And they're important because they can dive to such great depths. Now, most marine birds, the pelicans, the cormorants, the ones that are flying and dive into the water to catch their fish, they are diving to depths of about 10 to 15 meters. So some more homework, convert that into feet. But our penguins, they can dive to 120 meters under the water. And that means that their ecological role was basically the maintaining of the populations of the fish. So this is before overfishing occurred, and our fishing practices improved to such a great extent. They used to control the fish populations, which is very, very important. These are just our African penguins, though. The fastest penguins in the world at burst speeds of 40 kilometers an hour are our dealer penguins, and the greatest depths are our emperor penguins, which is 500 meters, which is half a kilometer. And they can also hold their breath for 18 minutes as well. So our penguins are pretty amazing.
Yeah, for sure. Great. Awesome. So we have time for maybe really quick questions from every class one more time. So Miss Burkett, I'm going to pause your microphone here, and we're going to see if Miss Foster's class, do you guys have one final super quick question?
Yeah. How do you keep track of all of the birds that are at the hospital?
Okay, that's a great question. Basically, if you look... If you guys look at the penguin, look at the flippers, you'll notice that there's a band on the flipper. So that band we put on all of our penguins and flight birds. The flight birds get rings around their feet. The penguins will get rubber bands, and basically on that band is a number system. So if you ever see a penguin at our hospital with AP, which stands for African penguin, 450, that's our 450th African penguin we've received this year, and then we reset that number every year. That's very important because we have to keep track of what happens with them. Each one has their own medical card on them, so it's just like a normal hospital. We have to record things like how much fish they get fed, what medication they get, weight changes, behavior changes, blood work done on them, operations performed on them, everything. And that's just because we only have one vet. He cannot look at every single one of our patients, so it just keeps track of their general health throughout the rehabilitation process.
Awesome.
Cool, thank you.
Okay, really quick question from Miss Moore's class. Do you guys have another question? I think, Miss Moore, you'll have to use the unmute button. Sorry, I can't do it from my end.
Okay, we've got it. Can you hear me now?
I can hear you.
Okay, we do have a question for Alex. The class is very interested in sending down stuffed animals. Do you have a size restriction, or do you have a certain style that you're looking for?
I think the best bet would be to email me, because even I don't know what that is. That would be our fundraising and media department. So I can give you my email address, and then we can correspond that way. It's just alex@sanccob.co.za. So alex@sanccob.co.za. And then you can just send me an email, and then I will forward it to the correct people on my side of the world.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, guys. Okay, and really quick, a question from Ms. Shavaria's class. Do you have another question?
Go ahead. Yes. Nice and loud.
When baby penguins get full, are they aggressive for it?
A baby penguin, so they're aggressive towards everyone the moment they start hitting that older age. Generally, when they're younger, they're a lot easier. They're usually just crying to be fed because that's usually what's happening. That's usually what's happening. So they just call fed. I just wanted to show you Rocky. So on very rare occasions, we will get a northern rock hopper here in South Africa. They usually land up on our coast specifically because they get caught in a current, which we call the Bagula current, or fishermen accidentally catch them in their nets. And some fishermen are superstitious. They'll keep them on board because apparently they're a good luck charm to get more fish. Travel around the world with them and then just usually drop them off wherever. We can't normally take them back to their colonies because we worry about disease spread. So they often stay here or go to zoo or an aquarium. So Rocky has actually been with us for the last 9 years now. She's also one of our ambassador birds. So because I work in the education department, I actually have one of the most fortunate jobs in Sanccob. I am allowed to bond with certain birds, so it's perfectly fine for me to do this because I actually go out to schools and do Skype lessons, and we do educational programs with them. This is Stubby. She's also one of my ambassador birds. Hello. So I can do this with these animals specifically because they're staying here permanently with us. And they're used to create more awareness of the situation, the very dire situation that we're all in.
Awesome.
Thank you for that.
Thank you so much. And last but not least, Miss Burkett's class, do you have a final question?
Go ahead. My question is, how do they survive in the South African heat?
Okay, that's a great question. So, once again, all penguins are different. And our African penguins have developed certain behavioral changes as well as physiological changes. So, if you look at an African penguin, you'll notice that there's this pink layer just above their eyes. Now, this is not mascara. This is an orbital gland. It changes color depending on how hot a penguin is and how stressed the penguin is. So usually when they're very nice and cool or they're less stressed, it's light pink to nearly white. When it's hotter or when they're very stressed, then it goes dark pink to nearly red. And that's because the blood vessels are coming closer to the surface of the skin. Because we have to be a lot smarter compared to human doctors, because our patients can't talk to us, we look for physiological indicators like that. Other things that they do, so the Antarctic species, they usually huddle up together. They have to, in order to keep warm. These guys stay far apart unless they're partners, then you'll see two of them together. They also create underground burrows when they can, or burrows under vegetation. And they take more frequent swims in the water to cool down as well. So there's quite a number of things that they actually do.
Amazing. Well, I think some of our classes have to go, and we are almost out of time as well. So thank you so much, Alex. That was so incredible. And I'm going to turn all of our mics on so that everybody can say a big thank you. All right, thanks, guys.